I came across the story of one of America's most successful lawyers, famous for his involvement in the Erin Brockovich case, going broke, being disbarred, almost divorced, and apparently owing his own clients tens of millions of dollars, after decades of being shielded by California's own legal system. It reminded me of us. Let me tell you all about it.
It's not necessarily getting the big verdict, but it's doing some good.
A bitch, what? That's just who I be. It's expensive to be me.
Thomas Vincent Girardi was born in 1939. He went through law school in the early 60s and after found success as a consumer lawyer. And with fees of up to 40% of damages awarded to his clients, he became very rich. Girardi came to prominence in 1970 as the first attorney in California to win $1 million plus reward for a medical malpractice case. In the 1980s and 90s, he was tangling with large corporations in the name of the little guy. As seen here, played by an actor, doing a character of a different name, Girardi was part of the water contamination case against Pacific Gas and Electric, which ended in a payment of $460 million to 650 residents of Hinckley, California. He's not the lawyer in the 2000 movie Erin Brockovich, he's the successful trial lawyer. Not the main guy, but he's in it, and he apparently traded on it for years. And what he traded on more specifically was an image of a people's lawyer. From the early 90s, Girardi represented hundreds of people from aerospace company Lockheed's Burbank facility in a successful class action suit against Lockheed. But in 2002, attorneys representing Girardi's former clients in the class action filed suit against Girardi, believing that millions of dollars had not been paid out. Girardi resisted opening his books, even ignoring 3 court orders. Then, when the judge had had enough, he settled the case. And we don't know what for. It could have been that he paid his former clients everything they were owed, or almost everything. It seems clear that he didn't actually intend to keep all of his clients' settlement money forever. How could he? Just some of it, and just for a bit. I say that because during Girardi's second divorce, around the same time, Girardi's ex-wife hired a forensic accountant to go through all the receipts and whatnot. He found indiscriminate and inappropriate use of the client trust accounts, including a $9 million payment Girardi made to himself that he never recorded. Former clients he represented in the Lockheed action have sued Girardi almost continuously since, notably in 2008 for $20 million. Girardi fights these suits by running out the clock and banking on statutory time limits. And this is the primary prong of Girardi's alleged fraud. He takes the money that his own clients have been awarded and that the people ruled against have paid out, holds it, which lawyers are never meant to do, and then does his best to not pay all of it back to his clients for as long as possible. In one spin-off case from Lockheed, Girardi took $60,000 in court-ordered penalties for deliberately holding things up, but the case was dismissed on statute of limitations grounds. How was he able to get away with not only cheating people out of their money, but selling himself as being a champion lawyer with an entirely spotless record at the California bar?
Mr. Shatner, I want to answer that question.
How could someone who, it's now clear, was at the very least becoming a cause for concern, with a growing number of disgruntled clients coming forward claiming Girardi had duped them out of money, how could he, at this time, get former Supreme Court Justice Anthony Kennedy to speak at the 2002 dedication of a Loyola Law School building named after Girardi's father? Well, by 2002, Girardi had made a good friend in Tom Layton, who just so happened to be a state investigator at the California bar. You know, the people who are meant to stop lawyers defrauding their own clients. Tom Layton effectively shielded Girardi from interference from the bar. And if ripping off clients was Girardi's prime fraud, Layton opened the gateway to a new secondary operation. Surely not as lucrative, but surely even more attractive than just money for a certain sort of mindset. Girardi used his own powerful reputation among lawyers across the country, and especially in California, and his connection with Layton to influence and lobby for positions on federal courts.
And it seems to me that most people probably want to do the right thing.
In 2003, he tried to get the chief of staff for then-Senator Barbara Boxer to throw her support behind LA Superior Court Judge Carolyn Cole's ultimately unsuccessful nomination to the federal appellate bench, according to an account at the time in the Daily Journal. And according to congressional records, he pushed for other state court judges who did make it onto the federal bench. In 2003, Girardi even employed Layton's son at his firm as a clerk. He was there for 7 years. I think it's worth noting that Tom Girardi was by now a very successful lawyer and very wealthy. It strikes me that when you hear about successful people emerging and taking all these risks to get where they want to be, that's almost always at the start of their careers. But by the time Tom was trying to become a kingmaker while brazenly defrauding his clients, he was in his 60s. It seems that the early to late 2000s was the most risky stretch of time in Girardi's career.
You know, I've been able to garner some of the finest trial lawyers from across the country that are in organizations that I'm in.
Bill Lokyer was the California Attorney General from 1999 to the beginning of 2007. He was one of the dozens of politicians, mostly but not all Democrats, who received some of the millions of dollars of Girardi contributions over the years, and he considered himself to be an actual, personal, human being friend to Girardi. But their friendship broke down in the mid-2000s, when Girardi lobbied Lokyer to drop a government antitrust claim against Sempra Energy for the benefit of his own private suit. Girardi also asked Lokyer not to pursue charges against Hewlett-Packard chair Patricia Dunn in a corporate espionage case, and instead go after a low ranker. Lokyer asked Girardi to think of justice. Girardi asked Lokyer to never speak to him again. Why take such a risk in cutting off such an important ally that Girardi had been cultivating for a decade? Well, really none of this is especially rational. Shortly after this, in 2007, Erika Jayne was born. With Girardi's financial backing, his third wife, Erika Girardi, began a music career.
It's expensive to be made.
Erika wrote in her memoir that part of the reason she did this was because there was nothing more I could buy.
That's just who I be. It's expensive to be me.
Toward the end of the 2000s was when Girardi began to consolidate power. Howard Miller, ex-employee of, and friend in quotes to, Girardi, was elected California bar president in 2009, and what do you know? One of the bar's ongoing investigations into some of Girardi's gross misconduct was suddenly dropped. In 2010, the bar's board of trustees then forced out the executive director and replaced him with Joe Dunn. He had been an Orange County senator for 8 years, and then the CEO of California Medical Association. But what really qualified him was his friendship with, you guessed it, Tom Girardi.
Is you want to do everything you can to be doing the right thing all the time.
Girardi went on to schmooze the judiciary of California with apparent impunity. He paid for the lavish retirement party of the state Supreme Court Chief Justice, who oversees the bar. In fact, Tom was notorious for wining and dining people with celebrity-attended events and dinners. Tom Girardi and Tom Layton used to eat in this restaurant, shown on Real Housewives, so frequently that they even put a picture of Layton on their wall. In 2011, he became the Italian-American Lawyers Association's annual president, putting on his wife's latest music video for attendees at the obligatory Brown Nosers party. Imagine the cream of California's lawyers, champagne in one hand, caviar sandwiches in the other, suddenly, unexpectedly, watching this.
You made me believe I was so far away and
I don't say that to bash her music. I actually kind of liked it before I realised it wasn't at all ironic. But behind Erika's narcissism is Tom's narcissism. And that's where all of this really comes from. Obviously. Anyway, it's about time for me to say anyway. And anyway, Tom kept working away. In 2014, being inducted into the Trial Lawyer Hall of Fame. And Erika kept working at her music shtick, even as it went nowhere, until 2015 when she joined the cast of Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. I mean, really true housewives of Boobity Boos, and was exposed to millions of viewers who I can only assume had never previously heard of her. I think it's interesting that she did this when she did. Filming for Erika's first season of Boobity Boos started in August 2015. In 2014, a number of women, whom Girardi had previously represented in a successful settlement claim, filed suit against him, saying he had essentially stolen more than $10 million from them by not passing on their settlement money. Girardi borrowed something like $17 million in high-interest loans and settled. By settling, any misappropriation of funds went undetected. We don't know what he settled for. It seems unlikely that he paid the whole amount, but even if he did, he still profited from holding that money. That money that wasn't his. That year, Chief Trial Counsel Jane Kim finally ousted Executive Director Joseph Dunn from his position at the bar, and with him Tom Layton, and things began to unravel for Girardi. As his wife lived la dolce vita, even claiming that it cost $40,000 monthly to maintain her hair and makeup, Girardi was continuously being sued by disgruntled clients, and began to seek out loans, the collateral for which was the anticipated fees of a number of large contingency lawsuits, and made up of rates of up to 20%, with even higher interest for missed payments. To do this, he tallied his net worth at more than $250 million, writing in an affidavit in 2015 that he expected his total fees in 2016 to exceed $110 million.
It's basically like wearing a Lamborghini on your finger.
By 2019, even though lenders were still pounding on his door, even though one such lender, Law Finance Group, had access to some of the firm's records and could see that Girardi's company was transferring vast sums to EJ Global LLC, the company set up for Jane's performing career, for no good reason at all. Even as that was going on, when California Governor Gavin Newsom broke with his predecessors in 2019 and publicly revealed the identities of the advisors who helped the governor select judges, Girardi was, of course, among those listed. The case for this not being a good idea was apparent for anyone who actually looked. I'm not sure if Newsom is derelict of duty or just corrupt. Hell, let's be generous. Why not both?
Flames roared some 60 feet into the air as block after block in this residential neighborhood, about 5 miles from San Francisco's airport, were engulfed.
By mid-2019, it was being widely reported that one of Girardi's clients, Joseph Rogomez, who at 19 had suffered terrible burns and whose girlfriend was killed in a massive gas explosion, was accusing Girardi of breach of contract for not paying Rogomez and his family the remaining balance from the original settlement. In January 2020, Girardi signed an agreement to pay the Rogomez family $12 million, but after paying $1 million, he stopped. In late September 2020, Rogomez's attorneys questioned Girardi in a judgment debtor exam. "At one point, I had 80 or 50 million in cash," he said. "Now, it's all gone," he said. What the fuck?
How many fucks do I give? How many fucks do I give?
I think it's telling and very relevant that everything I've just told you wasn't enough to get rid of him. It was only when Girardi faced a reckoning outside of California that someone in the judiciary seemed to actually give a damn. In December 2020, Edelson PC, based in Chicago, filed suit against both Girardi and Erika, alleging that Girardi embezzled money from victims of a 2018 plane crash. Victims who Boeing had settled with and who Boeing apparently thought it had paid out to. But, the suit alleges, Tom and Erika just kept the money in order to keep up the couple's celebrity status and to project a public image of obscene wealth at all times and at whatever the cost. Edelson even argues in the suit, when money comes in, they use that to pay previous creditors and previous clients, and then they wait till more money comes in, adding that, I guess everything just caught up with them. U.S. District Judge Thomas M. Durkin, overseeing the suit in Chicago, asked Girardi, why wouldn't everything be paid to the plaintiffs upon receipt of the money? Neither Girardi nor the two criminal defense attorneys who he had recently hired responded. Durkin froze Girardi's and his firm's assets and referred Girardi to the bar. A flurry of complaints against Girardi followed, and he was forced into bankruptcy in January 2021. In February, Girardi's brother claimed Tom to be mentally incompetent and was appointed as his temporary conservator, although Edelson PC say it's all bullshit. Tom Girardi was disbarred in March 2021 at 81 years old, seemingly owing tens of millions of dollars to widows and orphans that he had conned. Gullible, Erika called her fans in an early 2021 tweet. How did this happen? How were people like this allowed to fester, and probably would have festered forever if they were any good at it and had never set foot out of California? How can we come to any conclusion other than, if all of this is indeed true and not some simultaneous hallucination, the highest echelons of the Californian judicial system are on the take and badly in need of a brutal inquiry? Their defense in all of this is no one's there right now who was there when this was happening. Well done, guys. Well done. You should feel very proud of yourself. Erika's part in all of this is especially fascinating to me. What her husband is alleged to have done isn't really very smart and isn't really that different from something like the Theranos con or Rick Singer's side door to the Ivy League scam. What is different, though, is how much footage Bravo got of Erika and Tom for their reality TV show. In the show, she never presents this to be the case, but in her memoir, Erika says that by the time she joined Boobity Boos, she was ready to wrap up the Erika Jayne act. But from 2015, which was the beginning of Girardi's eventual descent, she took full advantage of a newfound audience and went all out. She hired Lady Gaga's stylist and Michael Jackson's choreographer and Katy Perry's backup dancers. Now I know I've been playing all these clips of Erika Jayne and haven't said much about it. All I'll say about it is that if you had hoped it was ironic, I'm pretty sure it isn't. But it is relevant to this. Listen to what she's singing about. She really only has one subject matter. She's singing about wealth.
Bentleys and Benzes through cash-colored lenses, them dollars and senses cha-ching.
I don't know how much Erika knew about her husband's activities. Edelson certainly seems to think she was in on it, asserting that Girardi took out litigation loans that were meant for operating his firm, but that he in fact used to lend to his wife's production company and for his own spending. Then, Edelson says, he started using his client settlement funds to pay back those loans that he had given to his wife. So, even if Erika Girardi had forever been ignorant of what Tom had really been doing, the effect was the same. She was always benefiting. Although she's now in the process of divorcing Tom Girardi, Edelson PC believe that's a sham to shield assets. But if she wasn't in on it, I'm not sure reacting to all of this coming out by not only failing to say something like, if true, oh no, but acting like all of this was going to go away, please buy this shit bag I'm holding, it's expensive to be me, that's just who I am, I'm a vapid lying sham, is strategically the right thing to do. Obviously not the moral thing either, but let's not get started. Like I said before, this would all be deeply appalling anyway, but it feels even more gross knowing that Girardi wasn't borrowing clients' money because he was in a hole. He never needed any of what he took. He happily dug the hole he's in now. Since 2010, when he was 19, Joseph Rogomez has had to have dozens of operations. He needs the money that he won. That PG&E didn't just agree to pay him, but thought they had paid him. Even if he didn't need that money, it is his. Why couldn't Girardi give that man his money? What the fuck was he spending it on? Tat. Absolute tat. 9 million on jewelry, 3 million in antiques, a $15 million mansion, ownership interest in 2 private jets, Chagall paintings. Who knows how much on Erika's shit music, but I bet you dollars to donuts she hasn't made much money on pretending to be Lady Gaga's mum. All of this was brazen. The complaints may have been suppressed for years, but people knew about them. I don't know if Gavin Newsom knew what Girardi was up to, but some people did, and Newsom should have, and in my opinion, he belongs in jail with Erika and Tom, as does anyone else who enabled this or turned a blind eye. My, it seems like I'm ending a lot of my videos by saying that. I specifically wanted to look at this topic because I think it's especially reflective of society, and sort of like a bubo. It's a symptom of some terrible malaise. It doesn't feel very unique exactly. Smell that? Corruption. Let me know what you think. I'm going to spend some time laying down on some sacking now. Goodbye.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.